Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Said Business School. You're joining us to hear more about our finance programs, our in-person programs here at Said Business School, and we've got a fantastic opportunity to really hear first-hand insights and experiences from three alumni who have undertaken finance programs with us. My name is Amanda Walton, and I'm in the marketing team at Said Business School, and I'm joined by my colleague Honor Menzies. Really, though, it's light touch from us. We're sure that what you're most interested in is the fantastic insights from our three alumni. So, without much ado, I will ask them to introduce themselves. Before I begin, though, I would just like to say a little bit about how the webinar will run. It would be fantastic if you could put the country that you're joining from in the chat function. We always like to know exactly who's attending and from which countries. And if you do have any questions that arise as we go through the webinar, then please put them into the Q&A function and we will pick those up at the end. Okay, next slide, please, Honor. So I'm absolutely delighted to introduce three of our former participants, our alumni. We have Pascale Elie, Robert Ides, and Alice Alexandre joining us. And if I can pass to Alice first, who is going to talk a little bit about her job role and why she joined us. Alice.
Hi everyone. My name's Alice. I joined the real estate program at Oxford last summer for the week. I work for a company called Redefco, which is a real estate investment and asset manager. And my job there is I work in sort of product and strategy development and also client relations and fundraising. I started my career in investment banking in the real estate team at Rothschild, and then went on to work in another client role at Tristan Capital Partners. And I've never really had a formal real estate education. I sort of learned it all on the job. And so part of that was the reason why when it was suggested to me with my company whether I'd be interested in this program, I sort of jumped at the opportunity as a really sort of good all-rounder way for me to go and check what I knew about real estate and see what else I could learn.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alice. And a big thank you to you and to all three of you for giving up your time today to join us. So if I can move on to Robert now.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert, and I am working as a founder and CEO of the mid-market asset manager. We focus on the real assets, real estate, and the energy transition. So, like Alice, we're pretty much in the same space on the GP side. And I joined the site executive education the first time last year in October, I believe it was, on the valuation of the private assets. The reason for that was more of we're mid-market, as I said, small manager, close to 500 million, which is not large, and currently scaling into the institutional world, which requires a little bit more rigorous approach. It requires a little bit more sophistication and I would say a true institutional level argumentation. And that was really cool and pretty good, actually, seeing how Luda can approach that concept of GPLP shootout in a real life through 1 week. And seeing that in real life, I said, okay, that's great. Let me try another one, which is run by Tim, and it's about a private equity, which was this year in February. And I have to say, it's hard to describe. It's really, it helps a lot to be there and to feel it. So my point and my goal was really to try to get scaling up, but I think I got a little bit more than that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robert. I was joking with Robert before we joined the call that he was a serial alumni, and we've got plenty more programs if you'd like to join, not just in finance, but across other subjects as well. And finally, last but not least, if I can come to you, Pascale.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Pascale Elie. I'm a fintech owner and president of the board of that fintech in Haiti. We are the first private fintech regulated in the country. And I joined the bank governance program last year while I was finishing my master in London. And for me, it was the missing link to complete my professional journey. As for now, not definitely, but it was for me a a bridge to continue the work I'm doing here in Haiti, but also in perspective of expanding our business in the Caribbean and North America as well. So thank you for having me here with you. I'll be
Great to
delighted
have,
to share my experience in this during this Oxford week.
great to have you here, Pascal. Okay, now I'm going to pass to Honor, who's basically going to take on the role of interviewer. So over to you then, Honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. So my first question for you really is, can each of you briefly sort of explain as to why you chose to study the program and why you decided to come to us at Oxford, and what was it about the program that really sort of lured you in?
Since I was the last talking, I will take the lead here. I was referred to this program by my network, and I jumped into the opportunity because of how the content was orchestrated, and as I was saying earlier, how I felt that it's the missing link to my professional development as of where I am today in leading that fintech. And fintech are often seen as a risky sector or prone to risk taking, and being aligned in governance in order to properly lead the financial institution was for me a very important step to take. And and the lessons learned throughout the courses and from professional that has hands-on experience in the market. I don't have a banking experience per se in the past, yes, but the way fintech are moving along and how they are becoming more resemblance with banks, and that good governance for me is very important for fintech entrepreneurs, for fintech players. And for me, that was the main reason I joined the program. Thank you.
Shall I go next?
Thank
So,
you.
as I mentioned, I've never actually formally studied real estate specifically, although I've worked in finance all of my career. And part of what appealed to me in this program was the all-rounded nature of the course. You really cover absolutely everything. You do cover it at speed. So it is not necessarily something you want to do with absolutely zero. You want to have had some experience and some insight so that you can follow it sufficiently. But it was a real opportunity for me to get basically the kind of best reference on paper and have that real rubber stamp. That's hugely valuable to me. The other bit that I thought would be really interesting is about meeting more like-minded people, kind of growing my network and really trying to expand my horizons a little bit. The cohorts are very diverse, I'm under the impression, and sort of people come from everywhere, and that was actually a bit of an opportunity there to be sort of, and I think that's probably be a thematic of my experience, is the kind of conversations that being in the room with people coming at the same topic with different perspectives, what that brings to you in conversation. I actually was very lucky to be offered the course and to do it with another colleague of mine who works in a completely different role in a completely different office. And so actually it was nice to have a bit of a touch point as two people in kind of the same business, but from a different way, and also to kind of grow from there.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay, probably I'm gonna get and add my 2 cents as well. I think as I mentioned before, it was really about scaling up, but it's not just about scaling up the company. It's really about scaling up the thinking, scaling up assumptions, the underlying fundamentals, and and that in evaluation, especially in private markets, it's like crystal ball. It's a very much of the various different things, and we work in a real estate. I think I know a thing or two about a real estate, and about evaluations, which follows the risk models, which is prescripted. It's very very nice. So it's very, I would say, foreseeable. You can assume what's going to happen in a based on DCF in some time. But in the private markets, try to do valuation of a company, try to do a EBITDA, what it really is EBITDA, and how to decompose that, and what should be there, what not, and what the managers do capitalize, and why the EBITDA is better than the other one. As I said, it's like so much of hidden skeletons which might be there, and um, you get completely either sustained or you just die during the DD process with the LP. So I think I would decide rather to stand out and survive. And that courses were really good. And I'm not going specifically on the details because it is about the detail. And in the valuation, the private equity, it's really about the details. The venture capital, the A series, B series, all different stuff of the equity injections or different equity structuring or the debt structuring. It's really eye-opening for those who are not in that, and it's very refreshing for those who are even in that field of operation. And it's as Ellie said, it's about a cohort also. I mean, you can see the people from completely different industries, from completely different areas, and they're not only on about the business. They're might be from manufacturing, they might be from FMCG, they might be from finance. Very, very vast and different. So that's my 2 cents.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's so interesting to hear from all of you, obviously doing all the different programs. So I guess based off of what you've all said, can you share a specific time as to when you've applied a particular aspect of the program and something you've learned on the program to what you do in your day-to-day role now, and how that, what you've learned from taking away and how you've applied it? Big question.
And should I go first again on that question? As the funny thing, as I was doing the course, I could see implementation during the everyday session. And today we are after 10 years of operation, and the market of fintech has evolved very much. The usage of technology, you have AI now doing a lot of making a lot of financial decision, etc. And that's what we're doing today. That's what I am leading as a board member, and leading my team to make sure that we have a proper cadrage, a proper framework to provide and to implement a new structure to the company. And particularly, we are rewriting our procedures to make sure that we are fighting financial crime as they are becoming they have a new face every day in the financial sector. So that's what I'm doing today. But since the class, since the lecture, I could see implementation, how this would be implemented and how this would apply to my company and with my team, particularly in financial crime and AI implementation and AI work that we are doing prominently today. I can remember that day 3 very well on how important procedures are to combat financial crime. And good governance is something that you think you're doing every day in the financial world, but in practice, it's a different thing. So it is important to have a clear roadmap, and that's what the lectures were able to provide in my experience, to provide me how to go from uh, 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 thinking of good governance to actually implement structure that are aligned with this vision. And today, that's what, since I completed the course, this is one specific thing I dedicated myself to be doing in my company is implement and refreshing our procedures to make sure that we are combating financial crime properly, and we are embracing AI in a very in a proper way in order to offer sustainable and adapted services to our users. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Quite interesting, Pascale, you mentioned AI because I just was thinking about my answer to the question actually, and what did I take away? I met some good contacts. I had some really interesting conversations. I learned a couple of things, as you can imagine, something probably a bit more kind of real estate valuation specific, a bit more like what Robert was talking about that he studied that I never studied. I just sort of learned what I could and then sort of took that on and modeled it. But actually, AI was a really big topic, and we had an interesting discussion. And I can't remember who it was, but a professor at Oxford presented to us a very kind of niche, specific usage of AI within the context of real estate. It was trying to map out and do some analysis on houses and residential and house prices and history and things like that. So it was really interesting, but effectively it really opened the floodgates, I think, with regards to the conversations that we were having and then what I could have when I kind of came back into my role. Not only was it this topic and sort of this presentation, but a number of people in the cohort also ran their own businesses, some of which were involved in AI. And AI for real estate, I think, is now a really, really pertinent topic. Everyone is talking about it more and more and seeing the different ways in which it was approached and hearing the kind of creativity of usage really was just basically, that was the first time it really kind of got stuck in with all the conversations that we were having and with a bit more education there. So it felt like a bit of a pivot point for the sector. And I, to be honest, now I'm back in my job, I took a lot on from there and kind of saw how I could run with it, just with regards to the different people, ideas, how we can push it through kind of our business and how we work as a real estate investor and how can we use it. So that was a really kind of big, obvious takeaway, actually, that moves neatly from what Pascale was saying.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay. What do I take? It's a good question. It's really the experience and the memory. That's one of the biggest things which will definitely live there. Because you can't forget a week in Oxford with the people, having a dinner at college, getting crazy exercises. So you finish like 10 or 11 p.m. and need to get there at 9 in the morning again. Being back in school after quite a few years. I know you look young, but not that young. So, but more importantly, in terms of the business, really, I think what is important is the diversity that nothing is really written. The important thing, what I got out is, and what we all know, but it's an art of improvisation. Americans might call it art bullshitting, whatever it is. It's a private equity. I mean, the private equity world is a really specific animal, and nothing has a written price. I mean, the price is only as good as somebody is willing to pay. Especially in an EBITDA valuation, because you can say it has a value of 10, it has a value of 12, who knows? Public markets has value of 45 times more or 60 times more. So what I took out really is more of what we've done is updated the underwriting model for non-formal procedures, but rather than the stress testing on the different approaches and ability to go to smaller type of deals. Because the smaller type of deals, you attract a different type of sellers. You attract more individuals who have subjectivity, who has emotions which are not necessarily in the institutional world visible throughout the daily process. Your negotiation tactics are different. Your approach to deals is different, and that opens up to get and targets a little bit different space for deals, which is more difficult to do. It is very the edge of the private equity on a venture capital, but it can be very rewarding at the end if you're good to play that. So I appreciate it, and I think that's what I took.
Amazing. No, it's really interesting. Thank you. So I guess, Robert, you've kind of touched on it, so I'll start with you. But you briefly mentioned about the Oxford experience. So one of our questions is, what aspects of the Oxford experience did you enjoy the most, or have you enjoyed since? So I'll start with you, as you kind of touched upon it.
Okay, sure, why not? Um, as I said, the experience is really, I think what is very important is what you expect when you go there. And I think it's important to know why you go there. Not just, to get a credential. I mean, you can get a credential. Sure, that shouldn't be the point. The point should be you're either eager to learn something, you're eager to solve something, you either have some business matter you want trying to address, you're trying to scale up, you're trying to grow, go to another country, whatever it might be challenging. It should be a some interest. And once you're there with some genuine interest, you find that through discussion with the people in the cohort itself. You find it through your interactions with the professors. You find it in different interactions during the the social events, and the people are so diverse, and it's just from all around the world, pretty much all around the place. So yes, everybody speaks English with a whole bunch of different accents, but it's still English. But the important thing is it's a really living organism for 1 week, and you hit a few pubs with an amazing British beer. No comment on that, and you create a social network and a friendship. And a day, it's not about if a GP representative, it's a LP, if it's a service provider, or if it's a owner, or if it's a family office, whoever it is, it's genuine interest to solve something. I think that's what really creates that vibe.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's really, really insightful.
Yeah, for me, I think by the way, I agree with what Robert was saying actually about the overall experience. For me, it was the high caliber of speakers. I really want to say that because it was a factor that I hadn't sort of fully appreciated until I got there and you realized who it was that was teaching you the course. In real estate, Andrew Baum is absolutely amazing. And he really drives the course and he just really engenders the conversation with the cohort as well. So I mean that I cannot understate that, but also who else was brought in to support the program and to educate. For me, that really struck with me. The large variety of topics, and then actually, to be honest, because this is the kind of person I am, I actually really like the organization. Like the whole week, it's really smooth. It sounds so silly, but again, kind of like Robert, it's been a little while since I've been to kind of like boarding school, basically. Not that I've ever really been, but you really like you get in and like everything is organized for you. You just roll on from one thing to the other. Here's your lesson, here's your study, here's your meal times, here's some events, things to do. It's not too crowded. It's not too pressured within this context. There's some really exciting tidbits if Oxford is new to you. But so I mean, I have to say for me, that was really invaluable because you weren't spending your time faffing around. You really were able to enjoy the time you were spending together, engage your brain at the right times and really be part of the experience rather than worry about the logistics. And I know from organizing a lot of logistics in my life and career, these things can't be taken for granted.
Yeah, and
I think,
sorry.
yeah, no, carry on.
I wanted to. The experience has been the same for me in um, the exchange, the learning you get from hands-on expertise professors, leading professors such as Amir Amel Zadeh, who is sharing his journey at Lehman Brothers falling. And this is a legendary time in finance, and having someone sharing this experience with you in this real world experience with you is invaluable. But yes, the composition of the group is incredible. Their different backgrounds coming from around the world in financial sector. It makes for a richer and more meaningful exchange. I've learned so much from my peer in everywhere around the world, and for me, that is also alongside with the content and the professors, the quality of the lecturers. The composition of the group is one of the big part and best experience I've ever had. And to date, we keep in touch, and the full experience of Oxford, living the Oxford life. I mean, it's Oxford. It's a beautiful, rich in history city. So for me, the whole experience was incredible, and the the way I was able to grow my network with same people in the same sector as me, but around the world with different perspectives, has grew me so much, and then it's incredible. Thank you.
I think if I could just pick up on something that Alice was saying, I think we realise here at Said that it's very difficult for senior leaders and executives to free up the time to come along for an entire week, to take time out of their schedules to join us. So we do try and make it as easy as possible. So there is a lot of support and coordination that happens beforehand. So there will be onboarding that starts several weeks before the date of the course. But yes, we have smoothed the timetable out to allow you to immerse as much as possible and add on the Oxford experience parts, because we realise that some of those conversations that you need to form with your peers on the programme don't take place in the classroom. They take place during social interactions. So that's a very important part of the week.
Yeah, absolutely echo that 100%, Amanda. And it's nice to hear all different sides of, the different Oxford experiences you've taken away and preferred and loved. Pascale, on your point that you just finished on, I'd love to start with you because we had a question from Victor, but it's also in our questions from today anyway. So thank you, Victor, for the question. But it is, how have you leveraged the network you developed during the program? And obviously you've just spoken about that, so I thought it'd be the best to start with.
Yes, as I was saying, our group chat is still alive, and we communicate from time to time. I had established contact with former central bank governors, board president of the board of administration of banks, and different type of people really around the world, from Africa to South America to the Caribbean and North America, and their perspective makes it does make my view more completed, and this exchange makes you bring those experience to my own company and my own reality. So yes, I do keep in touch with my fellow alumni at the course, but also with the professors. I was able to participate in different activities organized by Pinar Ozkan, expert in fintech, professor in fintech,
Yeah.
and also have the discussion about possible collaboration that are still going with her team. And to me, one of the most important thing that I got from, besides the content and the learning from the expert during the course, is the network that I've been able to grow in a valuable way.
Brilliant. Thank you. How about you, Robert? Have you found that you still, obviously you did 2 programs, so even more so, do you find that the network's been valuable to you? Do you still speak in them? I know some can go on for months and months after the program ends?
Oh, definitely. The network was definitely valuable, and we definitely are in touch. Not with all of them. It's a lot of people. It's altogether probably like 140, 150,
Mhm.
spread across the world. But we definitely are in touch. Um, it's an amazing mix of people, I would say, who come there. As I said before, from all different areas, from all different backgrounds, and very busy individuals. But I think when you go there, you really have to just realize, okay, the only constraint is time. And once you not say yourself in your head, or just switch off the email and say I'm not here, don't expect anything until I come back,
Yeah.
um, and say the time is non-negotiable, then it'll not work. But once you're at the point that the time is not negotiable, then you can really enjoy it. And we did. Um, and yes, we're in touch. We're definitely even organizing some stuff. We're trying to put together some small conference, and I'm very much in touch with professors as well, both of them. And yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Here and there, direct, indirect, but we're in touch in various ways.
Brilliant. Great to hear.
For me, of course, I have the WhatsApp as well. And every so often someone wakes up and we go again. I did keep some relevant industry contacts. I mean, look, I went there. My job is to raise money, so and I went there to see what there was there and what we could do. But actually, in the end, the contacts I've kept are sort of fewer rather than kind of the whole group. The reality is there's some people that just kind of naturally kind of align geographically or whatever it is with regards to their jobs. The other thing that I'll probably mention is most people on the program actually tends to be in their kind of mid-career plus.
Yeah.
And actually, that is a point in our life where, we all come from wherever we come from. We've all carved out the time. We all have many demands, family, friends, and or otherwise on our time. And so, we all manage to kind of spend the week together, and then afterwards it just is life. Having said that, look, I'm still in touch with a couple of people that, I mean, one of them I'm hoping comes into my fund. So we're working on that. But otherwise, one of the girls I mentioned AI, one of the girls in the cohort, for example, has her own AI business. And so I was trying to see whether I would get her to come and speak to us in our business to try and engage in that way. So, you know what I mean? There's different ways, sure, you can build friendships, but also there's different ways to interact in that conversation. So a bit broader from me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we do hear that side of things a lot as well, like in different ways you can reconnect, which is amazing. Alice, I'll start with you as you've just finished the last one. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who is looking to apply to the program you did? What would you say to them?
I don't know. I'd say I try to immerse yourself in it. Try to switch off that phone. Obviously, I couldn't, and that's not in my nature. But I do think that is valuable. I think you have to come with an open mind. I mean, we say the word diversity, but this is actually, I think, one of the few times in my life and career where I've really seen it in action in all senses of the term, in terms of diversity of people, cultures, and opinions and backgrounds. And really, you are bringing all of that into a melting pot. And, I had a thought that I was like, actually, in a way, it was kind of the best bit and the worst bit. So sometimes I found myself getting frustrated because I'm like, how do you not know this? I know we're all here to learn, but, how do you not know this? How does that, and actually, how has that not come into your background? That's why we're all here. We're all coming from a slightly different approach. We had one guy on the course. It really struck with me because I said, kind of, why are you here? A lot of us are real estate professionals in some capacity who just wanted to further our knowledge. And he he looked after the offices of a very large pharmaceutical company. And he said, I want to know about real estate because I want to understand how we're thinking about the buildings that we work in. When you manage a force of basically tens of thousands of people across the globe, if not hundreds of thousands of people, what does that mean? And it was just such a different way of approaching the topic. And it really struck with me because we had some amazing conversations. But this is what I mean about the diversity of opinion. I mean, I'm pretty finance. and he just came at it from a very different way, and all of it touches the same subjects and contexts in a number of different ways. So big open mind, and soak it up, really.
Yeah, love that. Thank you.
I totally agree with Alice. The open mind, it's a really important thing. And I think what I would also suggest is, as I said before, and I think it's very important, is to know why to go there. Because not knowing why, you wouldn't understand the buzz, you wouldn't understand the excitement in the room, you wouldn't understand why people are really so much asking the questions, going into details. They don't mind to jump on and say, okay, stop. I just don't understand that. Don't go further. It's it's not education. It's just focus on the fact that it makes sure that people will understand and will leave from the room with clearly knowing what was there about. And without being ready to be intellectually challenged, it's no point to go. I mean, it's a serious intellectual challenge the whole week, and that's an important thing. It's I really love that. The room is full of smart people. The professors, as Ali said before, are very senior and highly respected capacities. Um, it's really, really demanding. Focusing the brain the whole day might not look like a lot to to being tuning for 7 hours or eight, but you don't switch off. At the end of the day, you don't. You just keep thinking about it, and you start again in the morning. And probably you're lucky to sleep in between. So, um, and I don't mean that you don't switch it off even in a dinner or on a pub, because you just keep chatting, keep chatting with the people, who they are, what they do, how they connected, and it's really refreshing. I mean, if nothing else, it's worth to get intellectual challenge and learn a lot of things with a whole bunch of smart people. That's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some words we've had before described as intense, and I think that's pretty much what you said there, Robert. It's pretty intense, but it's worth it.
Yes, and I want to pick up on what Robert said. It is intense, but it's an opportunity also that we need to take advantage of. And so go there, be prepared, with an open mind, of course, but be prepared to have that intense week, because the exchange and the conversation you have with your peer, fellow classmate, and even the lecturers are very important, and the takeaways that you can any insight that you can get from them will add to the content of the course. So the participation, the complete participation on all activities, they might seem not necessary or too much, but it is very important, because what happened in the classroom is one thing, but the one-to-one conversation you get in the social gathering is also different, and the connection you make with the people is very much valuable. So be prepared. Yes, it is intense, but it's definitely worth, and the opportunity of connecting with others is the most valuable. Is very valuable. So be prepared of that, the intensity.
Yeah, I like that intensity. Another good one.
But it's a good one. It's a good intensity. And it's fun being in Oxford. I hope it's sunny and hot as it was last year. So people can enjoy also visiting the city and the university and the different colleges and their history.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And off of that, Pascale, we're nearly at the end of the question, she'll be glad. But what do you think? Did you see results quickly? So when you finished your program and then you went back, into your world, how quickly did you see results, or was it a slow progression? And was there sort of anything where you saw results in places you maybe didn't expect?
I had my plan in mind when I finished the course in Oxford, and for me it was coming and do the implementation. I'm seeing results. The thing is, I was away for more than a year from the organization,
Yeah.
and coming back with this roadmap of some restructuring to align with good governance in financial sector. not only me, I see result, but also coming from the other board members, but also from my executive team, they are seeing the difference and the level up in the organization in general. So I as Robert said, if you know why you're here, you know what you're going to do with the content and what is the what are you going to implement and how
Yeah.
you're going to do it. And then the changes are expected very rapidly. And not only I see it, but my team, my executive team is also talking about it, how now we're doing things a little more aligned with our vision and that is quite impressive.
Brilliant. Thank you. And either from Robert or Alice, in the sense of seeing the results and where you maybe didn't expect or you did see it come through?
I actually just as far as thinking when Pascal was talking is actually what I came back with was confidence.
Mhm.
And I kind of Pascal, like I kind of felt that's what you were saying. Like you've got your roadmap, but actually you've got the confidence to go ahead and execute it.
Yeah.
And I think in a way, like that was a really important one for me. Coming back saying, this is what I know. This is what I know I know. This has been validated by the people I was with, the conversations I was having, all sorts of panels. And you can then go and execute it. And also just gives you I had a lot of market insights and I'm big on kind of hearing different people's perceptions of, what's invested and where's market going. So that was a really nice kind of fresh piece of insight as well, because it's learning, but also current, what's going on right now, what are the key themes that people are talking about, how is it really relevant, and being able to talk about this in a wider context, and then bringing all of that in, just being like, yeah, I know this, and going ahead and doing it. Yeah, for me that was a big one actually.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's nothing to disagree with Lace with. I mean, honestly, it's really the bottom line is the confidence and courage. Because without courage, you can't do decisions. Without confidence, you'll be second guessing, or you'll look for any third party opinion or fourth party opinion, whatever opinions might be, and never nothing will get done. Um, but really, the confidence and courage is the most thing. And as I said before, we already did implement something. We might be going to the different segment because of the negotiation tactics, which might change, as well as the decomposition of the EBITDA and proper questioning and assessment. But I think what's more important is really that people are less afraid to make a call. Once you're there, once you see the other cohort, who they are from, where they're from, what they went through, life is about learning from mistakes. Um, Without that, they'll be very easy and boring. So I guess moving forward faster by not being afraid to make a call, and that is judgment is done by increase of confidence, by understanding the specific field.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's been lovely to have all your different takes on it. There's one more question from me that I wanted to ask, and focus on, ask Robert. For anyone watching, obviously, considering doing one program, let alone two, it would be really interesting just to know a quick insight as to, I know we've spoken before, but obviously for everyone on the call to understand what made you come back. To do two of our finance programs is a pretty big deal. So it would be really interesting to know what made you want to do a second one after you joined our first.
Hmm. Okay, nice question. Well, the thing is, I really like the structure and the style of Anna and Ludo on the evaluation of private assets. And evaluation of private assets is kind of a subset of the private markets. It's a subset of the private equity. It's only the value and how the value is created, whether the value is correct or not, how you can decompose the EBITDA, what is there, what is not. And you have a very, very smart and highly credible people doing presentation there. It's not only about one or two professors all the time. The guests are really senior guys and with a very respectful credit. And um, seeing about valuation, let it be real estate, let it be private equity, venture capital, doesn't matter. You want to go and dig in a little bit more into the private markets because the valuations is about a value. It's not necessarily about structuring. It's not necessarily about GPLP negotiations. Not about the acquisition or venture capital. It's not about the type of equity you can deploy. It's not about the fund or mandate structuring from the different waterfall perspective, the performance, let it be whatever it is. I don't want to go into details, but the more important thing is those are very connected together. And the private equity is more broader. Valuation is how do I know really if the value is correct? And those two were naturally close to me. And I wanted to finish the second as well. Besides, the second very important thing is that Tim Jenkins is the guy who hired Ludo. And knowing Ludo first time, Filippo, who runs the valuation with Anna, I was just very keen to meet the guy who convinced him to come to Oxford. So and I did. I have to say it's a very smart couple. Not in a natural way, obviously, but very smart guys. And I wouldn't mind to go again.
Amazing. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I just thought it'd be really interesting to hear. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for all of your input. I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to add out of the questions that we've asked you. If not, I will hand back to Amanda. No.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Would you just like to share the last slide?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so each of our 4 finance programs runs annually. We've got a couple coming up this summer. We have bank governance, which starts on the 22nd of June, and we have real estate, which starts on the 6th of July. If you're interested in any of our programs and you like what you've heard today, then I'll leave the QR code up on screen for a couple more moments, so you can follow that and find out more. But please do reach out on our program pages. You'll find contact details of our sales staff below that. In terms of the other 2 finance programs I didn't mention, we are running Valuation of Private Assets, VPA, on the 5th of October this year. And then the last one, Private Equity, runs on the 19th of April next year in 2027, which seems like a very long time away now, but we'll be honest before we know it. So it just remains for me really to say an absolutely huge thank you to our 3 alumni, Robert, Alice and Pascale. It's been really useful and interesting to hear your insights. I think for me, what really resonates is not just the experience that you had whilst you were here and the connections you made, but really how you've been able to apply your learnings back in your roles. So huge thank you to you all for giving up an hour of your time today. And thank you to everyone who's joined the call. We've had people from across the world, from Brazil, from Ghana, Romania, here in Oxford, someone from Dusseldorf. I'm coming out to Dusseldorf in a couple of weeks, really looking forward to that. But thank you very much once again. We'll end the webinar here and we will be following up next week with an email, and we'll send a recording out so you've got time to watch again at your leisure. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.